What's up, guys? Welcome to the third episode. 1, 2, 3. Third episode, Plant Movement Podcast. I'm your host, Willie Rodriguez, accompanied by my brother, Eddie Gonzalez.
What's going on, you guys? How you guys doing?
Guys, today we're going to be talking about success. I'm going to be starting a whole thing. I have a bunch of different topics. Like, literally, my mind's going crazy on what to do next. I'm just going to be real with you guys. So, I know you guys come on, and I want to thank you guys for taking the time out of your day, because time is the most valuable thing we have, to actually sit through this and watch and listen to it. I hope you guys take something home from it. Every single episode we're going to dedicate it to, growth and bringing something to the table. Mm-hmm. And that's what this is for. So not every episode is going to be an interview. Right. It's also going to be just me talking about things I've done in my life to, become successful, right? Yeah. And that's what it is about.
Yeah, and hopefully everybody grows from it as well. This is the goal of it.
That's the goal. And to bring others on and to give opportunity to everyone, to the world, and to share our stories and to share what we do, make connections, and grow. That's what this is about.
Exactly.
Right? Today, the number one thing as an entrepreneur, all right, that gets you rolling in a massive, massive way is something called credit. The word itself is scary.
Credit.
The word itself is scary, right? But it is a massive tool if you use it correctly. Correct. And it can really blow you up. That's how I have been able to get to where I am today. If it was not for credit, I would not be here.
100%.
So I got to thank credit, right? And that's why we're going to start off.
Thank you, credit.
Yeah, we're going to start off this episode today talking about credit and how to use it and what I've done using it and what others have done using it. And maybe I tell some stories along the way.
Yes, do it.
So credit is a massive, massive tool. It's got to be the number one tool. It's probably more valuable than actual dollars. Because to save up money to go buy, let's say, an asset, right? Because that's what I like to use credit for. I don't like to use it to buy toys, right? If I'm going to buy a toy, I'm going to save up for the toy.
Oh, what's your slogan again? The plus plus?
Plus plus no minus. Plus plus no minus is the slogan, guys. And I live by it every single day. Credit, if you go and you save up money, you'll never be able to get to where you can be if you use credit. That's why credit is so valuable, right? So it's not just, let's say, the credit score, but it's what you do with your credit.
Correct.
Because you're only allowed to pull out so much on credit based off your income, right? So if you have your if you have your credit tied up, the money that you can take out on credit tied up into things that don't produce, right? It takes away from you actually going and getting things that do produce with the credit. So that's when liabilities come into play and assets come into play. I like assets. Assets build wealth. Assets bring money. And liabilities are like cars, boats, things like that.
Yeah, things that
credit cards that you rack up your credit card, you can't pay for it. Things like that are called liabilities, right? It's things that are iffy, right? That lose value.
And you can lose.
And you can lose. So credit is a massive tool. Things to do to get your credit right. For those of you that don't have your credit right, one thing is paying off your bill every 3 weeks. Because if you pay your bill before the cycle finishes, you pay no interest on that money. So you got the money for free for 3 weeks. I know that's something hard to do for everybody, but if you get to the point in your life that you can structure it properly to be able to do that, you will become powerful. Your mind will change and you will become a very powerful person. For me here, I've used credit in so many ways. The first property I bought, if it wasn't for credit, I wouldn't have been able to have it. And today that property, like I said in the first episode, has jumped up 700%. I use that one as a reference because that's the one that has jumped up the most, right? But, you could purchase land with it, and that land now is sitting on a whole lot of inventory. It's 10 acres, and I use credit to buy the pots. I use credit to buy the soil. I use credit to do all those things. Even at some points, I use credit, something called a credit line, that I use to be able to fund the employees, to be able to pay for the labor to do it.
Okay.
Because those months I was having slower months during that time, and also I had upfronted all the money that I had, basically.
Got it.
Right? So credit came into play there, where I was able to acquire a credit line from something else. And that's why it's so powerful having your money in assets. Because if you have your money in assets, you can do things like that. A bank will lend you a loan against a paid-off asset like a property.
A property.
Right? And not just that, but like you landscapers, you need a bucket truck, you can go buy one. You need a lawnmower, you can go buy one. All these things you acquire with having credit. Another thing with the landscapers, there's something called a business line of credit that you can acquire by going to the bank, right? And you show your statements, you show your invoices, stuff like that. You show that you're making some type of money, and you will be able to get a credit line at 22, 23 years old. I got a $75,000 credit line, which helped out massively. So like for you landscapers, it's a massive tool because now I know when you go to do these jobs, sometimes you don't get enough upfront to fund all the product, right, that goes into it. So by having a credit line, you can sleep at night knowing that you don't have to upfront your own money. You can upfront the bank's money, and you have time to pay it. Brokers, this is massive, right? If you're a broker and you get, you know, let's say you're doing $50,000 a month in sales, right? That cash flow, let's say, doesn't come in as it goes out. So having a credit line allows you to go buy the product, tie up the product. That way you have it at that set price, and then you're using the bank's money, right, which is credit. You're using that in a positive, powerful way to make money because returns on broker stuff, you know, some people mark up 10%, some people mark up 40%, 50%. So you're paying 5-6% interest in a year, and you're flipping and making 20, 30, 40, 50% every day. So it's massive. It's massive the opportunity you could do with credit. And that's something that I really wanted to talk about and touch on as the first, you know, episode in this little series.
The educational episodes.
Educational episodes is credit, guys, because it has changed my life. It has changed my life. Think about this. Let's say you have $100,000. You have $100,000 to invest in something. When it comes to property, you can buy $500,000 of real estate with $100,000. You just got to have credit, and the $100,000 is the 20% down. There's no FHA loan in our world, right? In the business world. So just think about the opportunities you can have using your credit properly and having things structured right. You know, debt and all these other things that go into credit. But it's a massive tool that if you use it properly, you can really win.
Right. And I know you mentioned before we went live something about that if your credit is not necessarily right, you could go to the bank and provide.
Yes. So if you don't, for you guys that don't have credit or you can't obtain a credit card, you can go on Google and just type in my first credit card or credit cards for people that have gotten into things like bankruptcies and stuff like that. And you might get approved. If you don't get approved and you have no credit score or you have a bad history, right? You can go to your bank, whether your bank or another bank, Google it. You can give them, let's say, $1,000, and they put it like in an escrow account, and now they'll give you a $1,000 credit card. So that's a way to go building your credit.
Okay.
Right? Another tool that I use is, like I said, I pay it off. Another thing is you do not go past 50%. So if your credit limit, let's say, is $1,000, you don't pass 500. Your credit limit is $100,000, you don't pass 50. You never pass it, not even for a day. If you were to go to pass it and you don't have the funds to pay it off, try to pay off enough to give you room to only reach half. You get me, for the time being until you can make another payment.
Part of Willie's tips and tricks for,
part of things. No,
for
credit,
success.
Credit, guys, like there's so many things that go into it, and when you grasp the reality of what credit is and you use it wisely, you use it as a fire tool, you know, because these are all tools that were implemented and put into this world, you know, in the United States of America to help people grow.
Right.
A lot of people get credit and they go and they buy a car and they go buy a second car, or they go buy this and they go buy that, which, yes, you could do that.
Latest and greatest.
No, you could do that with credit, you know, and here I'm talking about business-minded.
Yeah, exactly.
All that, you got to look at it as distractions, because that's how I look at those things. And you got to look at it as it taking away a piece of the pie, right? Let's say your credit and what you can get. Let's say you can qualify for $100,000 or you qualify for $1 million. If you have all these separate things, like you have a new car that's $60,000, boom, that's $60,000 out of the pie that you can get. Another car, another $60,000, boom, out of the pie. You have $50,000 in credit cards, boom, that's another piece of the pie. So when you go to actually pull the trigger on a massive opportunity, let's say your neighbor is selling 5 acres with a house, and he's like, "Oh, I'll give it to you for $800,000, right? And it's worth 1.2. You could have easily went and got that property at 800 and flipped it for 1 and made 200. But since your credit is tied up into all these things that really mean nothing at the end of the day, they're just, you know, things that are here for a little bit of time, you lost the opportunity. And that's something that, you know, as an entrepreneur, you want to win, right? You want to win.
You want to have that mindset.
You want to have a winning mindset. And to have those things implemented, you go, like, let me tell you a story. One of the customers that I sell to, he started off as a broker, and I ended up, you know, talking to him, and I do consulting for him, for you guys. Then he help out there in the consulting world of growing your business and making it as efficient and as prosperable as possible. We offer those services here. But so I talked him into, dude, you're coming down every week. You're stressing yourself out. Let's go and let's set up a piece of property over there where you have 100 of each thing, and now you don't have to come down all the time. I can go up to you, because that's what we do through Ace Ornamental. Right. We'll gather up what you need, take it right to you. You set it out on the floor. The people come, or you can load it up in your truck and go deliver it, right? Because he's doing house development. So let's say they're gonna do, hey, we're gonna do 5 houses today. He would take what he needs for those 5 houses and go and bang it out. This is where credit comes into play, because he ended up going and buying a property that, when you have massive debt on other things that are not, you know, assets, they're liabilities, he would have struck out. Right. But he didn't. He was structured properly, and he was able to do it. He bought a piece of property, about 20 acres in the Orlando area. He paid, I think, $400,000. Right. Okay. He sold his house where he was.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
All right. Yeah. So he sold his house where he was to be able to afford the property and to be able to buy the property, right? And to free up some cash flow, to not be broke. Right. He set up a single wide trailer on the property. So that's how deep the mindset went, you know, to succeed. And that's where your mind has to be. Your mind is a massive, it's crazy. It's the biggest tool. If your mind's not right, you won't be able to succeed. You need to have your mind right. So he did these things. We started setting everything up for him. Go down the road. Now it's been like 5 years since he bought the property. The land around him has gone up in value so much because they're constructing properties. Constructing homes.
And this is right next to the Space Center, too.
This is right by the Space Center.
Location.
Yeah, crazy location. Up in Center, Florida. So that property today is worth $3 million, man.
It came up.
You know, so that's just to show you the opportunity. And it's like, hey, would you want to give up an opportunity like that for something that means zero? Right. That's a fulfillment for today.
Right.
You know, like for me, I buy a new truck, and it's not new. It's a used truck, but to me, it's brand new because I just picked it up. Right. And the best part about it, you know, like, it's a new truck to me. It's a used truck, but it's a new truck to me because I just jumped in it.
To us, man, we're car guys.
but I paid it off.
Right.
You got me? And by having it paid off, it's structuring me to have more, you know, discipline in life. You get me? Like, even though I can go buy whatever I got to buy, I still structure my life that, hey, if you want that, you got to work for it.
Of course.
You know, and you got to have that there, because if you don't have structure in life, you don't have structure in your business, you're not going to have anything. And credit comes into play big time. I know a lot of people are scared of credit. That's because you guys, the ones that are scared of credit, you guys are looking at it the wrong way. You're looking at credit as, oh, man, if I buy this car, I can't afford it. You know, how am I going to pay for it?
Not only that, though, great credit allowed you to pick up your brand new trucks that you needed for the business.
That's another thing.
It's like,
for any aspect. If I wouldn't have had credit, I bought 2 brand new Mack trucks. They were box trucks, right? But I bought them without the box. I chopped the chassis, made them what's called a cabin chassis to be able to pull a 5th wheel goosenecks. Right. And the reason I did that is because the trucks that I had were older, and they were breaking down. And with the times that we're in, it was very hard to get those trucks fixed. Right. It was hard to get them fixed. There was no parts. There's still no parts. Right. And the labor and the people that are actually working, they have a huge waiting list. Right. So it was just a disaster. So I went and bought these 2 new trucks, and I was able to buy them with credit. I put $0 down. I put $1,000 on each truck just to hold them. Yeah. Right. That I found out a few months later, I was even lucky to even find 2
I know, that's
trucks.
what I was going to say, how lucky you got.
Okay, because now there's a 2-year waiting list on Mack trucks.
It's crazy.
So it's crazy what credit allowed me to do. I have the trucks here. I've only made maybe 3 payments, so I have, let's say, $7,000 or $8,000 invested in $160,000 worth of trucks.
That's crazy.
But that's what credit allowed me to do. Yeah. So now I am, by doing that, I'm paying interest on something that is allowing me to defer taxes, like all these different things that go into having credit.
Those trucks pay for themselves. Those trucks pay for themselves.
Oh, those trucks pay for themselves every single day. Yeah. So credit, guys, if you have it right and you use it properly, like the way I'm trying to tell you guys how to use it, look at credit as an opportunity to win big. And if you have credit and you don't have anything, that's fine. Don't just jump into something because you're able to.
Right.
You know, hold off. Have that winning mindset. You landscapers and the gardens and everything, like land is where it's at.
Right.
You know, land is where it's at.
Property.
That's one of the best places to put your earnings.
Right.
It literally is having the tools that you need to operate your business, just making it stronger. And how can you do that? By having credit. I know that we're in uncharted waters at the moment. You know, you don't want to get over your head when it comes to debt, you know, with credit. But if you buy a piece of property, you know, it's going to be very hard to lose. Yes, you might lose in value if things slow down and the prices come back down a little bit. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
Right.
And I also think that it's great to have that asset, even if it lowers down in price, because it will come back up based off history is what we've seen. And you can make money every single day with the property, whether you're planting on it or whether you're renting it out for space or for whatever it is. You can figure out ways to make money with it. And it's a massive opportunity if you look at it like that. You know, credit also allows you to buy your house, to buy all these different things, which for me, a house is great, but it's kind of like dead money in a way. You know, I know we all want a roof over our heads, and that's one of the main goals that we all have. But houses to me is like, you know, let's say you're gonna buy a house and it's $500,000. You got to put 100 down. For someone that doesn't, you know, have a entrepreneur mindset, you just put 100 grand into an asset, which is great, but that asset does not give you a return.
Oh, unless you sell it.
Yeah, a house doesn't give you a return unless you're renting it out.
Yeah. Right.
So for me, it's like, man, the last thing I want to do right now is buy a house because one, it's inflated. Two,
the market is so crazy.
yeah, and two, I'm putting money into something that I can't extract unless I pay it off, or unless I get equity on it. But since we're at a high peak right now, it's kind of hard to build equity if you buy into these markets at this moment. Remember, everything that's a craze, you don't want to get involved in it too much. You know, and for the people that have bought land, I bought land this year, you know, and it is what it is. You know, the opportunity came up. It was next door to something else, whatever. I wasn't going to let it pass. And it's, hey, if I lose 50 grand on the value or 100 grand on the value in a couple of years, it is what it is. It's okay because the property long term is what I'm going after.
Of course.
You know, and also I'm building a portfolio. I'm building, you know, a portfolio. Yeah. And the credit is what has allowed this to happen, guys. You know, look at credit as a tool. Don't look at it as something to go and splurge. Don't look at it as a negative thing.
Correct.
You know, there's so much opportunity to be had by having your credit right, by having your income right. I know a lot of people, this is off the topic, but a lot of people don't like to pay taxes. You know, the majority of people, who likes to pay taxes, right? I don't like to pay taxes. But in all reality, for you to grow, right, as an entrepreneur and grow your portfolio, you have to pay taxes. Right. You know, that intertwines with your credit. You can have an 850 credit score, but you have no income, and you're going to strike out every single time. Even if you have assets, the only way you can go around that is going to a third-party private lender. You know, somebody that lends money, and they don't care what you make. They look at the asset themselves, at itself, and most of those guys, because I've gotten loans from private lenders when I first started, they look at the asset. They want to be a first-time lien holder. A first only lien holder on the property, and they'll give you up to 50% of the value. So if you defer the payments, they can take the asset, and there's still room for them to make money. So those are just a couple of things, guys. I have a huge, massive list of things I want to talk about. We recorded another episode actually, and it was just so clustered with so many things that I couldn't feel free and talk openly how I wanted to. But this is just one of the main things that has really been able to change my life and accelerate the wealth gap, you know, from where I was to where I am today. And the best thing is the party's just started. And I want you guys to know that, and I want you guys to implement that. For you guys that have debt, that you're trying to pay it off, I'm glad that you got into the debt. And I'm glad that you are where you are, because getting out of it is what's going to make sure that you never get back into that, right? Because I was in debt. I was in debt massively. Credit cards. I couldn't get out of the credit card run for like 6 or 7 years into this run of 11 years. You know, at A's Ornamental, because it's just so hard. I would pay a little bit, and then you know, it would fill back up, and then I would pay a little bit, it would fill back up. I would wait for the season, like springtime. Spring is when our industry makes the most money. So towards the end of spring, it's like, okay, I have all this money sitting here. What am I gonna do with it? And I would automatically tackle the credit cards. But then as months went on, you know, it would go getting back up, and then I would pay, and then it would get back up, and I was stuck in that rut for a while.
Did you also like consolidate?
I did consolidate, so that's something good. That's a good question. So when you acquire assets with your credit, right, and you get into this what I call is good debt, right? You as you go paying for it, and it goes building equity. You know how things have built up equity. Equity is the money that the property is made in value. So if you bought it for $300 and today is worth $400, that $100 is what's called equity. You can get a credit line against that, and what that does is set you up in a massive way, because you now can consolidate all your debt using that asset, right? Taking the initiative to go and actually purchase that asset with your earnings, and now you can consolidate all your high interest debt, and you can have it in one payment, which is awesome, at a low interest, because most of those interests, like I think the highest interest I pay is like 6% or 5.5% on a credit line. But it's massive, and then that sets you up for big opportunities. That's why I'm a big advocate of paying off debt, because when you show banks that you are recurringly paying off stuff, and you're using it and you pay it off and use it and pay it off, it strengthens you massively. So they know that, hey, this is this guy's rhythm, and this is the same rhythm we're going to see with him. So we're going to lend it to him, knowing that he's probably going to pay it off quickly. And it's good because now he'll have another paid off asset that we can go lend him even more on the next one, because the next one's going to probably be bigger.
Right.
So these are all things that they use. You know, I would love to bring a banker on here.
Right.
And maybe I bring my banker on here one day and we talk. I got to see if he'll be able to do that.
Right. Maybe. You never know. You never know.
Guys, there's just so much.
Or if you're a banker listening, please.
Yeah, if you're a banker listening and you're inspired to jump on and share with the community, I would love for you guys to come on. Yeah, that's what this is about, guys. I just really want to talk about specific things, and credit being the number one thing that really I couldn't grasp my mind about, around what I should, what we should talk about as the first one, on this episode. And credit just seemed to be the fit. Right. Because if you have it right and you use it right, you can grow in a massive way, like crazy massive. You'll never be able to save up the amount of money you get with credit. You can go get $100,000 credit loan, and you can put it into something that you're paying 5% interest. You're making a 20 to 30% return on it. You can pay that. You can pay that $100,000 off in, 2-3 years. Right. If you're only taking the money from what that 100 is producing. And now you have that asset that's paid off in 3 years, which the time that we're in now, I much rather have paid off assets.
100%.
And I'm a big advocate of paying off debt, because I've seen what having a lot of debt, an immense amount of debt, when things slow down and now the income's not coming in the same. When you're sitting on paid off assets and you're sitting on, property and stuff like that, and you have credit and you have all these things happening, when tough times roll through, you're good. You're solid, because all these assets that you're able to acquire, they're literally a savings account. True. They're not the money sitting in the bank, but they're assets that you can extract money and still keep the asset, still make money with the asset. And that's what credit has allowed me to do, and allowed a lot of you guys to do, which if any of you guys are inspired and you want to come on and talk about your business and talk about what you've done in life to get to where you are today, that's what this show is for.
100%.
All right? To give back to everybody, and to network and to push together, ourselves and go out there. So very excited. The first episode, that's what it is. Credit, guys. Get your credit right. All right? Don't lose your credit over something stupid. Keep it.
And this is episode 3, first episode of educational.
Yes, episode 3. So God bless you guys. Thank you for tuning in. All right, you can check us out on Instagram at the Plant Movement Podcast on IG. The nursery channel is at A's Ornamental Nursery. Right, I got the shirt on today. I didn't have my Plant Movement shirt on. But check us out, guys. This video is going to be on YouTube for visual, and also Spotify, iTunes, and all those platforms. Everywhere. All right, you can click the link up in the bio on Instagram, and you can check us out. God bless you guys. Peace.
Take care.